Hello and welcome to the Half-Backed podcast out of NRL Round 24. I'm your host, Tim Williams. We're here to try and find some winners for the punters out there, the Half-Backed podcast listeners. And I promise you, we are trying, even if it's been a grim few weeks. More on that a little bit later, though. Here to do it with us, as always, NRL analyst Matty the Waterboy. Matty, how are you, mate?
I'm good, Timmy. I'm good. Obviously, last week was pretty chaotic. Obviously, we'll get to the results, but I mean, whether or not the teams actually came back and won or not, I think Manly had a 14-point lead, lost it, got smashed in the end. Broncos had a 24-point lead, got pumped in the end. Souths had a 28-point lead, and they nearly lost that game. The Bulldogs had a lead, and they lost that game. It was quite a crazy week, which is pretty exciting.
The thing about punting, Matty, as all the listeners, I'd imagine, who probably have a dabble themselves are all too familiar with, it doesn't discriminate. We sit here and we put our plays out there every week, and we get to your plays very shortly, and very unlucky on a number of occasions. Sometimes it flips the other way, though, where your player just scoops up a loose ball and scores a try, or players get injured and it works in your favour with a header, whatever it might be. But it tends not to discriminate. So, look, you can point fingers and do all this, but at the end of the day, when your luck's in, your luck's in. When it's not, it's not.
You got to ride the wave. And that's what it's all about. And I certainly rode the wave with my lock this week, but it is what it is.
Exactly right, mate. Ride the wave, indeed. A fair bit like Supercoach itself. You have your highs, you have your lows. Yeah. So enjoy the highs when you get them. On today's show, we'll drop our locked value Hail Mary bets for NRL Round 24. Reveal our moral bet of the week as we try and land a certain thing with a view to donating the winnings back to Grassroots Rugby League. We'll, of course, recap our halfback punter of the week and then drop our head-to-head tips for round 24, starting at the weekly recap, Matty. And while some weeks it can be tough to read these out, some weeks it's just very, very joyful. Look, you can't blame us for not being accountable. If you haven't worked it out yet, it wasn't a great week for the podcast. Matty, your lock of the week was the Rabbitohs giving away a 6.5 start at $1.70. The margin was 4 points. The Bunnies led, I'm going to leave this to you very shortly, but was it 24-0 or 28-0 at halftime?
28-0.
Playing for top 8 position against the Eels, whose season was dead and buried. Matty, Parra came back and got the margin to 4. That one hurt.
Not only did they give up a 28-point lead, Timmy, they missed 4 goal kicks in the first half. So it should have been 36-0 at halftime. It was 6 tries to nothing. They missed what? Yeah. To sum it up, our goal kicker did his hammy goal kicking. So, at 28 points up at halftime, I thought, yep, the lock's locked. It's all good. And to lose like that, like to still win the game, but like lose the bet, it's just like, what are we doing? So that was a shocker. That was a shocking beat. I'm not happy about that at all.
Yeah, I completely forgot about the lack of conversions to make that even worse than it was. Mate, your value play of the week, I think you're unlucky here too, but give or take, you might not have been. You had the Knights giving away an 11.5 start against the Raiders down in Canberra at $4.15. Look, the margin was 6 points there in the end, so you didn't quite get there. I will say, though, Bradman Best was ruled out late, so Simi Sasangi, he put on an absolute clinic out there at centre. I think that's a very different story if Bradman Best plays. Nonetheless, he didn't, and he missed out on that one. Then your Hail Mary bet, again, like it was pretty good punting. It just, things aren't falling your way at the moment. You had the Roosters and the Dolphins to win 1-12, tick. And then you had the Panthers to win 1-12 against the Warriors. That was at $29. So you got 2 out of 3. Granted, the Warriors wiped the floor with the Panthers, but
yes.
No good, but there were some positives.
Exactly. Much better than last week. Last week was a shocker in the game this week. So, yeah, we'll be back. We'll be back today.
Less positives for mine, Matty. I had a feeling last week I was, as previous members of this podcast would say, bullish about mine, and I got greedy and it just did not go the way I'd anticipated. David Fafita was my lock of the week at $3.40. I thought I was onto a special at a huge price. Look, it turns out he's a huge price for a reason. Played fantastically well, but he did not score. Value play, Kulikefu Fuiaki, $4.75. Also did not cross the stripe. My Hail Mary, I mentioned that I didn't mind the Cowboys as a win potentially, but I just thought off the big of the demolition job, I would go a Titans 13+, into Keanu Kinney, into Phil Sammy at $20. Sammy got a double, and that's about as good as it got for me on a tough week. But I don't promise you this because that's probably illegal on a punting podcast. I will do my best, my very, very best to make amends for that this week. Matty, the leaderboard, you lead the charge still. You opened a window for me. You really did at negative 8%. I've dropped to negative 12%, so you've still got the lead. How are we feeling?
There's what? How many weeks left? There's 4 weeks left in the footy season plus 4 weeks of finals. There's enough time to get back in the positive because we've been in the positive basically the whole year. It's just been a rough couple of weeks. So it's all good. It's all good. Just need to get a big one on the board.
I said last week, and which will absolutely be factored in at the end of the year, especially if they're winners, our bets from the start of the year, I forgot to chase them up, and I remember about this time every show, but I do remember my lock for the season was Jermaine Asako, top point scorer. I think he's pretty well walking that one in, I believe. So that's a positive. I had Cobbo, top try scorer, as my Hail Mary, and my most improved team was my value bet on the ladder, and it was the Bunnies, which would be looking great, but the Knights have been outstanding. So the lock's looking good. The Bunnies probably going to be outdone by the Knights there. You had Murray Taulagi as your Hail Mary, which was looking good early, but he keeps missing games due to injury.
Yeah.
Do you remember what else you had?
Yeah, I went and looked back. So this is probably the worst aged bet of the year. Oh, actually, no, it's not. The Roosters Cowboys one is, but it's just a thing that didn't happen. I had Makasini to be the top try scorer for the Tigers because I thought he'd play on the wing, but he went to the center. He's been dropped a bunch of times. So look, it just didn't pan out the way that I thought it would. My lock of the year though was Panthers top 4 at $1.90. That is absolutely
yes.
Awesome. So that's good at least. Looking back, that was $1.90. Bloody hell.
Honestly.
Crazy. So, yeah, no good on the other two, but at least the lock was there, and you got your lock as well, so there's that.
Well, I've just checked. Asako's on 246 and Nico's on 188, so you best believe that will be factored into our bets and getting a little bit closer to the black, but, mate, we don't want to have to rely on that. Alrighty. What's gambling really costing you? For free in confidential sport, call 1-800-858-858 or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au. Round 24 bets. Matty, the boys need a bounce back. 65% of our bets goes to the lock, 25% to a value play, and 10% to a Hail Mary. Your lock of the week, hit us with your best.
I haven't been as confident as a lock as I have been on this one for a while. This one, I can feel this one. Now, the Knights, I've had the Knights in a lot of my plays in the last few weeks. Some have come good, some have come close, blah, blah, blah. For example, last week, as we said, with 11.5, or, I had Francis Manu-Leilua, who scored a try the week before and then he might have scored one the week after. He got close or something. So it shows I like the Knights this year. It just hasn't worked for me punting wise, but I think if I keep it simple this week, it will win. The Knights, I was looking at Knights 13 plus, and I was looking at different margins. You just never know with the Titans. The Titans have a lot of points in them, so when it comes to margin with the Titans, it's always a bit of a risk. What you can rely on the Titans though is to not turn up defensively. So I think the Knights are going to have a big win, but will they have a big win where the final score is 32-28? Will they win 50-0? I don't know. But what I am sure is the Knights are going to score 30 or more points. It's a Sunday afternoon. It's at McDonald Jones Stadium, whatever the hell it's called these days, Energy Australia. So the Knights, the actual line that the betting agencies were giving was 30.5, which is $1.90. I was like, you know what? Don't be greedy. Just do the 30 points, which is $1.72. I reckon they'll walk that through. I have a feeling that Knights left edge is going to cause the Titans some absolute drums this week. I reckon it's going to be a big, big win for the Knights. They're playing for their season. I mean, they pretty much are going to make the finals, but they want that home final because that's everything to them. So I reckon it's going to be a big couple of weeks for the Knights. They got Manly the next week in Newcastle on a Sunday arvo or Saturday arvo as well. It's going to be a big couple of weeks for the Knights. I just reckon they're going to rip them a new one. So Knights over 29.5 at $1.72.
Yeah, very nice. Not a bet I'd sort of considered the nature of the bet in the market itself, but you're right. And look, the Knights are going to feature in my bets later on. I think they'll win that game well too, but you're spot on in the sense that I said the Titans, they always have, not always have, but they generally have points in them, but they've never been able to defend. So even despite playing some improved footy, an interesting take. So just piling on the points, I really like it actually. For myself, mate, I have gone to the Sharkies and the Raiders. Mate, I have a bad feeling about this for my Raiders. I think Kale Iro, on return from a head knock, a week off, a freshen up, anytime try score at $2.25 is a special. A few reasons behind it. Simi Sasangi, I didn't realise, certainly till probably mid to late way through this year, even the back end when he'd missed games, but how important he was to this team. And even last week, they got done by the Knights, but basically when we didn't have any answers, it was just give early ball to Simi and he just put an absolute clinic on, score tries, set him up. Outstanding, Simi Sasangi. So he's out this week. You add in now that Kale Iro is either going to be running at Matty Timoko or Savelio Tamale, depending who plays that centre spot. Either way, it's a wonderful matchup because neither are fantastic defenders. You add in as well Big Red out of that team. I know there was a brain explosion last week, but he's a big loss through the middle. The Sharkies, that loss last week was their first loss since round 16, which came against the Roosters. They haven't lost back-to-back since round 8. The Raiders' season is, essentially over. It's a day game. It'll suit the Sharkies attack, I should say. Unfortunately, I suspect a bit of a pounding in this one. And a little bit more on the Sharkies front. Jesse Ramien's out of this game on the right edge. Hirode will go to the right. I just think they're going to favour the left edge with Iro there, with Mulitalo there. So, yeah, Kale Iro to score $2.25. Matty, thoughts?
Well, I'll tell you my thoughts. I love it so much that exact leg is in my value. So I'm with you.
Yes.
We're aligned. I don't need to explain why. You've already done all the explaining. I'll just get straight into my value because I'm with you. I think the Sharkies are going to put on a show against Canberra. Yeah. I think it's going to be a big bounce back, and I think they're going to favour that side as well. Especially with all the talks about Nico, but Braden Trindle on that side, floating around that side there, he's been outstanding all year. I'll be shocked if he doesn't poll in the top 10 Dally M votes for the entire season. Yeah, Kale Iro for a try. But I've multied that with something else I think is good value this week, and that's the Dragons to beat the Tigers at $1.95. I can't believe this price. If you take results away and you just look at team performances from the last, call it 6 weeks, the Dragons have had a couple of shocking games. There was one against the Titans, which was bad. There might have been another one, but they've been in games. Even though they haven't got their results, they've been in games. They eventually got that win last week against the Sharks, and the Sharks were bad. They had a bad day, but the Dragons have been in these games. The Tigers have been horrendous. They can't score a try. They can't score points. I think they've averaged maybe 2 tries a game for the past 6 or 7 weeks. They've been awful. And I just don't know how they're even money. So I found the Dragons at $1.95. I think they're going to win. I think they're going to win well. I unfortunately don't give the Tigers a chance in this one. I think the Dragons are there's a lot of green shoots there. They were horrendous at the start of the year, but they've gotten better at the back end of this year. There's so much hope for next year. So I just reckon they're going to win. I'm going to multi those two together, which gets you $4.40.
Very good. Yeah, I like when we're in sync and we have some alignment. Doesn't always happen, but there's huge alignment in our plays this week. I'll talk about the Dragons and Tigers game a little bit later. I actually like a few underdogs and a few of the margins and that. My Hail Mary was just going to be 4 results in certain ways. I'll touch on that shortly, but mate, for my play this week, I've gone the Sharks and the Knights to win 13 plus. I didn't add the odds there, but I know it always goes above $4. So I think I got maybe $4.10 for it or $4.20. I'll double check. It'll be up on the screen if you're watching on YouTube because I will have factored that one in. But it was a bit over $4 for those two. Look, I sort of spoke about the Sharks. I honestly, I'm a bit scared about this one for the Raiders. I fear it could potentially get a little bit ugly. The Raiders, they've been really good at recent years and for a while now, blocking out sort of noise from the media and externally, and they, keep it quiet pretty well, but the stuff around Big Red, who's pretty beloved at that club, he's now been dropped. He's not playing at all this weekend. I don't know what's going on behind closed doors after the brain explosion last weekend, but I don't like it for them and the fact that the season's essentially over. So, yeah, I'm a bit worried about the mighty Durs in this one at Shark Park. The Knights, again, you sort of touched on a lot of the points before, but look, Brown and Lucas, they've been gone for a while and their rhythm's still been fantastic, getting better week on week. They beat them 36-12, the Titans, back at home on the Gold Coast. That was in round 12. Admittedly, the Titans playing some better footy now than they were at that stage. Last week, Bradman Best comes back into this team. If he was there against Sasangi, KP bombed a try with the line open. I think the scoreline could have looked a little bit different. So Sharkies and Knights to win 13 plus. Matty, it sounds like you're on board with me for this one.
Well, yeah, I am on board. And once again, this podcast is flowing nicely because it does link into my Hail Marys. Yeah,
beautiful.
I'm with you. I think it's going to be 2 big wins in both of those games. So giddy up. So my Hail Mary, we'll go back straight to the Knights game. I think Greg Mars, who's going to score a double. I actually think he's going to score a hat trick, but I'm thinking I'm just going to play it safe-ish and go double. And I'm going to multi that with Tyrell Sloan from the Dragons to also score a double. So the Tigers backline at the moment, who is on debut? Solomon Sakuru. So he's on debut. I don't know what side they're playing what because Benji he's changed his backline all year. It doesn't matter. The Tigers have holes in them no matter who they put out at the moment, like with all the injuries they have. And, Makasini's been dropped again. And, I can't trust the Tigers' defense right now. And Sloan's a try scorer. And he's had a good couple of weeks. So him 2+ into Marzu 2+, for all reasons said before, gets you 15.75. It's going to be a Sunday Arvo fill up for me. I'm going to have my feet up. I'm going to watch both games and just hope for points.
Tyrell Sloan is a bit like the aforementioned Gold Coast Titans. You know that he'll leak points, but you know that he'll also score tries. And from a punting perspective, that's all we care about, mate.
Exactly.
Mate,
exactly
for
right.
myself, I have gone to the Dragons and Tigers game. He's become a bit of a man. To be honest, the whole Dragons back row has become a man crush for me this season. Considering the way they've played, it's surprising. But Hamish Stewart, I've gone Hamish Stewart into Adam Dewey at $12 at the multi there. You might, if you shop hard enough, you might be able to find a bit better than that. But I found $12 for Stewart into Dewey. I'm with you. I think the odds for the Dragons are silly. I was going to go just really hard on the Dragons, but I held off a little bit on it. But yeah, Hamish Stewart has been exceptional this year. He's been, plugged by the club, might have been Dean Young about, the Kangaroos and getting a call up there for the World Cup at the end of the year. Adam Dewey, I had him in my plays. I can't remember if it was last week or the week before, it was the week before, I believe, as first try scorer. He did score in that game about 450, or it might have been more, but it wasn't first try scorer. But again, in a game where I still think points are going to flow, I think Stewart into Dewey at $12 is nice value, and I know that you're on board for that game points-wise as well, Matty. I was very close to going. We'll get to tip shortly, but Sharks 13+, Knights 13+, Warriors to cover their 6.5 line, and then Dragons head-to-head at $15.30. I then just got excited about Hamish Stewart, so I went elsewhere, but I do like that. Guys, if you tune into this podcast, chances are you don't mind a little bit of a flutter and love finding some value across the board when finding your weekend winners. And we're no different, of course. And to find the best value, each week we've got the benefit of Smart Bees Smart Odds, comparing odds from over 100 bookmakers. The good horse racing season is upon us. Spring Carnival, one of the great times of years. The Group 1 horses, the best of the best, are getting back into their work. And instead of having 55 different pages opened up, hopefully you don't have 55 accounts, but checking the odds all across the board, they've got it in one neat little spot for you, the way you should be punting, the smart way to do it. They've also got daily fantasy sports content, essentially Supercoach contests for every game. It's particularly good for those of you that have thrown in the towel to the Supercoach season, maybe knocked out of head-to-head leagues. You can win real money and enter free of charge when you use the coupon code SC Playbook on sign-up. They'll drop free coins in your account to enter, which you can win real money with. To give yourself a crack, check out our link in the podcast description on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. Matty, our halfback punter of the week goes to Ugzilla. He had Clifford into Lukey anytime try scorers for the Cowboys last week at $8, which saluted on a pretty poor week for the punters out there. There wasn't a lot of winners, but we did have Ugzilla doing the business there. Leave your comments in the YouTube comment section, Spotify, wherever you're tuning in. Put in as many as you like, and if you find some winners, we'll put the best one on the show each week. Now, Matty, moral of the week time, the part of the show where we're going to try and raise some cash for country rugby league. Each week, one of us tries to find a certainty. If it wins, we roll it back into the following week. The aim to get to $1,000 to then donate it to a bush footy club back to grassroots growth. We've gifted one hit of $1,000 already this season to Mount Kembla, and we want to do it again. My only winner last week was in my moral, Sua Fa'alongo at $2.02 to score, which saluted. Matty, over to you, 202 in the kitty. What do you got for us?
I had a bit of trouble this week because I had two that I really, really wanted. Not like to put in lock of the week or anything because, this is more going off what they've done this year. And because South are not favourites and because Penrith, they are favourites, but, they're against the Roosters, so their odds are like pretty high in comparison to what they usually are. Jenkins and AJ are better value this week than they usually are each week. So I was like, I might as well just pick one of them to score a try. And then I was kind of debating who. And then I figured, look, I might as well back the guy who's better odds and the guy I love. So I'm just going to go AJ. You rarely see AJ to score a try at $1.83, but he scores for fun, and he's only 3 tries behind Jenkins at the moment, so which is crazy at the age he is. So AJ to score against the Doggies, $1.83.
I'm just looking at his stats from the season. Like, we know he scored mid-20 tries, whatever it is. He's only... This is pretty crazy now that you mentioned he's $1.83, because I got him a few weeks back as my lock at a similar price. It was about $1.82, I think, and he's only not scored in 2 games this season.
Crazy.
Out of 16. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. He's played 3 less games than Jenkins. So his tries per game is better than Jenkins.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Honestly.
He's a freak.
He's so good. All right, let's get to our head-to-head tips for the week and ride home AJ for Bush Footy this week. Okay, Thursday, 7:50 p.m. Oh,
tough.
How good's a good night, a good game of Thursday night footy, an absolute blockbuster, probably the best one all year. Panthers and Roosters at CommBank Stadium. Panthers $1.67, Roosters $2.22. Who have you got, Matty?
Man, the Panthers are 3 from the last 7. It's crazy, but yeah, I think after last week, I just have to tip the Panthers. I think the Warriors have probably, the Warriors game might have been a bit of a wake-up call. They got to perform against these good teams, so I'm going Penrith.
Yeah, look, it'll be a cold day in hell when I tip against the Penrith Panthers. Isaiah Yeo out is obviously big, and there's a bit of uncertainty around Dylan Edwards, but I don't know. I think they'll be too good. They beat them 40-4 in round 3 or 4 earlier this season, the Panthers. So Panthers for me. Brookie Oval, Manly and the Dolphins, 6 p.m. Friday. Oh, another exciting clash, especially if Manly can turn their form around. But Manly at $3.25, Dolphins $1.35, the line 9.5, Matty.
Yeah, like if this was 6 weeks ago, I'd be like, wow, what a game. But unfortunately, Manly have fallen off a cliff, and the Dolphins have been pretty underwhelming. So I'm going to find this game pretty hard to just bet on in general. But as a tip, I'll just give you Dolphins.
I normally love the Dolphins in particular and Manly in my plays. If Manly do show up for this playing for their season, then they're huge overs. And their defence can be okay. They're just in a rut. So I'm with you. I stayed away from it. Like, you've got to tip the Dolphins on Manly's current form. It's a weird game, and one that I was happy to avoid from a punting perspective. Matty, the Doggies and your beloved Rabbitohs, Friday, 8 p.m. Another great game of footy with a lot of players back on deck. Doggies $1.57, Bunnies $2.41. Who have you got here?
It could be curtains for the team that loses this game. This is a huge game for both teams. I do think South. I just think they find a way to win these games. The Bulldogs' defense has been awesome this year, but I think South's attack, when they're on, like, nobody's stopping them. So yeah, if they can click, I think South win.
This is another one I was so torn on, and like when I had my sort of 5-game Hail Mary potential multi that I didn't end up going with. Initially, I wanted the Doggies because I'm like, they're playing so good and the Bunnies have their injury woes. Then I went through the team list and I looked at the Bunnies having a few players back. I'm like, that is a great lineup. And you've got the defense of the Dogs versus the attack of the Bunnies. And the more I looked at it, the more I went, stay the hell away, because I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be a great game of footy. Oh, I'm going to go the Doggies. I think from a punting value, the Bunnies at $2.41 is probably the play. But yeah, it's just a good old-fashioned case of defense v attack. And I don't know who's going to run out the winners, but look, I'll be tipping the Doggies in that one, I think, in form. Mate, the Sharkies and the Raiders, 3 p.m. Saturday, Shark Park. Sharkies $1.31, Raiders $3.46. The line is 10.5. Look, we've both gone the Sharkies, and it sounds like you're on the Sharks to cover as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Next game of the round, Eels and Cowboys, Saturday, 5:30 p.m. Not the most exciting game of all time. That being said, Eels showing a bit of ticker, and the Cowboys, look, they're a good team to watch, for sure. That is at CommBank. The Eels $2.49, the Cowboys $1.54. Matty, another one I struggle with this.
It's a tough one, and yeah, again, I wouldn't bet on the result. I'll tell you what I will bet on: try scorers and points. Neither team can defend really well, so I'm gonna go Para. I just have a feeling Para are going to win. I reckon they gained a lot of confidence out of that second half.
I'm going to go Cowboys purely on the fact that they're playing for their season in the top 8 and just more to play for. If Iongi wasn't ruled out, I'd be going
I
Eels.
forgot about that.
Yeah. They've got the young Twiddle Apper at fullback, so who's a bit of a weapon, but again, just new combinations. So tough one. Again, punting perspective, I like Parramatta for multis and that sort of stuff, but head-to-head, I'm going to go the Cowboys. Broncos and Warriors, 7:35 Saturday evening at Suncorp Stadium. The Broncos $2.87, the Warriors $1.42.
Yeah, it was. Broncos are a shambles at the moment. And I think the Wars, they want to get that home final, so I'm going Wars.
Yeah, I think the Wars, and I think they could slap them around the park as well. Knights and Titans, 2 p.m. on Sunday up in Newcastle, $1.22 the Knights, $4.30 the Titans, the line 12.5. Matty, we're both on the Knights, obviously. What about the 12.5 line?
Yeah. As I said, there's a danger that the Titans can score. It can be a shootout, but I think the Knights flog them.
Knights to win and cover it for me. And, mate, we both like the Dragons odds in that game against the Tigers this week. That'll do us for the Halfback Podcast for round 24. I'm sensing good things. There's unity in our plays. Our opinions are very similar this week. And, look, what could possibly go wrong? Matty, thank you as always.
Thanks, Timmy. Good luck to us both.
Good luck to us both. Good luck to the punters out there. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Have a great week.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website